Hello, so welcome to another reading vlog. This week I'm going to be reading creepy guy books, mainly because I started reading You. This is a book my sister gave me. I have now seen that she only gave it 2 stars on Goodreads, so that has lowered my expectations. I don't know if they were super high anyway, but this is about a guy stalking a girl, and it's written in the second person, so it's always talking about you whenever he's thinking about her and watching her do things. Now, I had heard that Joe was kind of likable, but I have to be honest with you, I hated him right from the first page, and I thought maybe it was going to be showing like kind of that blurred line between where do you go from like being really interested in someone to that stalkerish behavior where you're looking at them on social media and you're taking things a bit too far. But no, he is going way too far right from the beginning. And he's very like delusional and arrogant about this relationship that he thinks he's having with her, even though they've only talked a handful of times at this point. So I'm about, how far in? 60 pages in, and it's a 400-page book. I don't know how I feel about it so far. It really depends where the story goes, I think. If it's setting things up just to be like, he's an awful person, and look at all this awful stuff that's happening, I don't know, do I want to read that? I don't know, but that would definitely be better than like, maybe he's not an awful person, because I don't know if I could come around to that. Anyway, I'm going to be reading this. As well, I also have a couple of other creepy guy books. So firstly, the audiobook that I'm listening to is the 13th book, I think. Yes, in the Harry Dresden files. So I've said before, I just don't really like Harry Dresden. And to be honest, I've realized that this audiobook is the last one that my library has. There are 17 books released so far, I think. But I kind of think I'm going to end here because recently I read Changes. And even though in some ways it did some really interesting things, the way it was written was still really boring. And then right at the end of that one, Changes, there was a big change. And so I thought maybe this one, Ghost Story, would be more interesting. Could have taken things in a really interesting direction. But again, I'm 30% in. And so far, it doesn't seem like it is going to be. So basically, Harry Dresden is a wizard and also like a private investigator. Although, what is he now in the 13th book? Who really knows? Well, I do know, but I can't tell you because it's spoilers. But he's in a very different place than he was in the beginning of the books, but he's still basically trying to save people from horrible magical creatures. But he's also just constantly sexist. Maybe in this book he's less sexist, but more boring. That sounds like I'm trying to equate sexism with excitement, and that's not true. In fact, sexism is pretty boring these days. But Harry, it's just boring all the time. I don't know. There's so much potential in some of the things that are happening in the world, but I just think this series isn't for me. But I'm going to finish this one off and maybe we'll like it. Basically, Harry has come back. There's kind of a time jump for this one, and he's come back from a situation to find a lot of the people that he cares about in danger. That's as much as we can get into without getting into spoilers. And then I thought, since I'm already reading 2 creepy guy books, that the other audiobook that I read this week, because I will need another audiobook, the other one I think I'll pick up is 1Q84 by Haruki Murakami. So Murakami, I really love the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle, and maybe another book of his, I can't remember now. Maybe it was just the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle. And I've read some other things by him. The big one everyone talks about is Kafka on the Shore. Whoa, that was creepy. There were some parts I liked again, but also like, what the fuck? And just Haruki Murakami in general is, I think, kind of a creepy guy. That's what I get from his books anyway. Also, 1Q84 is like a 1984 retelling, so I'm expecting it to be quite fucked up. And I'm not sure if that's what I like or not, but this is going to be the book that decides whether I ever read any Haruki Murakami ever again. Anyway, today I'm actually having a power cut at my house. Theoretically, I got the outage notice, but so far I still have power, so I was expecting to not be able to work all day, but now I still have power, so I don't know. Should I be working? Should I be reading? I need to do some work, but like whether I have power or not decides what work I can do, so it's a bit of an unknown. Also, I am of course still trying to get my life together. However, I now only have 2.5, almost 3 more weeks of work to go before the Christmas holidays, and then I'm not working next year, so I feel like I'm nearly back at a time where I have space to do the things I want to do instead of just being burnt out by work all the time. But I just still have to get through these last couple of weeks of work. So let's read some creepy guidebooks and see if we can survive the week. Hello, so it is now the evening of the next day. I tried to be very good today and focus on work because yesterday my power went off in the end like 1 hour in from the boundaries they'd set. So from I think like 10 o'clock until 3 o'clock. And even though I kind of set myself up to be able to do work without power, other than a few emails, I didn't really do much at all. In fact, I spent most of my time reading. I still don't know if I like this exactly, but I do think it's quite engaging in that you're reading in first person, and if you just kind of like sit down and focus on reading it, you get into this flow. And so I'm about halfway through, maybe a little bit past that. I still wouldn't say Joe is likable, but I think what people are referring to is that some of the experiences he's having is where he's kind of not doing well with this relationship that he's trying to force into happening, or that he believes is already happening. But like the way he's failing sometimes is just like a very normal, relatable way of failing. So maybe that's what people mean when they say he's sometimes likable. But also, like, his whole train of thought is always about how he can manipulate people into acting in a certain way or seeing him in a certain way. He's never just being there as himself. He's never genuinely trying to connect with people. And he's still so delusional with the horrible stuff that he's doing. Like, he is not good. He's doing some really bad stuff and he doesn't even see it as bad. And also just like everything, you're hearing it from his perspective, but you can clearly tell in certain parts that his perspective is not what's actually happening. I mean, just in the whole way that he believes they're already in a relationship when they barely even know each other. But also, there has started to be some hints that maybe there's some other things going on, and I'm honestly hoping that Joe's going to get what he deserves for everything he's done. Although what he probably needs is like psychiatric care, to be honest. And I don't think that's going to be the ending of this book, but I'm hoping for some nice twists and turns at the end. So hopefully I can read some more of this tonight. The other thing I have been doing is struggling through the Dresden Files book that I'm reading. What is it called? Ghost Story. The thing with this one is I'm just so bored. I really think this is going to be my last Dresden book. I don't think I'm going to bother trying to track down the next books in the series. I can't bring myself to care. And I feel like a lot of it is very dependent on you having a connection to the characters, and as he engages with all these characters you've met before, being like super excited to see them all again. But I'm not really. And there's also this character Molly, and he keeps going on about how he doesn't find her sexually attractive because he knew her since before she wore a bra. Why don't you just say, since she was a child, why are you so focused on her wearing a bra? The whole situation with Molly is still quite ick. And sometimes I think that Jim Butcher, is that his name? Anyway, sometimes I think he thinks that Molly and Harry are endgame, and if that's true, then I'm really not there for that. But I don't know if that is what's going on. But I hate the whole thing. I'm so bored. Part of me thinks I should just stop reading it, but like, I don't know. I'm bad at DNFing things. I'm going to finish it. I'm already halfway through that one as well, but I will be glad to see the end of it. Not much else has been happening, but I've now only got 8 more days of work to go through, so we're getting there, and I'm seeing the end of my to-do list. Maybe. There's still a lot of problems floating around, and 8 days seems like not much to solve them all and also hand over all my work to other people. But I'm going to do my best, and I keep telling myself if I've done my best and it's not good enough, then that's not my problem, because after that I'm going to be gone. Anyway, if I want to go and do some reading tonight, I've really got to go and do some chores first, and then maybe reading. Hello, so I've made it to the end of my working week, sort of. There's a couple of things that I really wanted to do today. Actually, I didn't even touch the things that I wanted to do today. I didn't even touch them. I didn't get anywhere near them. All these other things jumped up on my to-do list. But most of it can probably wait till next week. I don't really want to wait till next week, but I also don't really want to work tomorrow. but I might do a tiny bit. Anyway, I did want to update you on my reading. So firstly, last night I read like another quarter of this, so I'm about 3/4 of the way through it now. I have to say, about halfway through, my expectation is from there that things would kind of escalate. It seemed like there were going to be some reveals and surprises, but instead, everything that seemed to happen was just kind of random. Like, it doesn't feel very cohesive, and it feels like the direction is just all over the place, and I no longer feel like it's building to something that's being foreshadowed in any way. So now I really don't know what to expect from the very ending of this book. I thought maybe it was going to be like twisty and thrilling, and now I'm like, is it? Or like, what is it? I don't know what this book is anymore. So I guess I'll try and finish that maybe tomorrow. We'll see. I think Jason's going to come around in a bit, so probably not tonight. Then the other thing I've been doing is listening to Ghost Story. I'm 80% through. To be honest, I don't care about anything that's happening. If I was sensible, I would just stop reading it, but I'm not sensible, so I'm just still listening to it. It's fine. It's only going to take me like another hour and a half to get through it, and I'll do it while I'm doing some other stuff at some point. But I just don't care about anything. There's also like quite a lot of flashbacks, and it's all stuff that you've already heard the broad strokes of the story before, except that he's trying to tell you about this one particular bad guy that we've never heard of before, but now is very relevant. But I just don't care about the backstory. It doesn't seem that important. It just seems like filler. And really this whole story, like, it just seems like filler. And I can see that it's maybe trying to do certain like epic things, but I don't care about those things, and so I'm bored. I definitely think this is the end for me and Harry Dresden, and that probably I should have ended at book 7. Then I would have been like, oh yeah, that was great. Instead I'm like, what a waste of my time. Anyway, it's been raining all day, but the sun has come out. Jason's going to come around, so we'll try and just have a happy evening, and then we'll work out what we're doing on Friday. Hopefully not too much work. Hello. So I'm having, honestly, the most relaxing Friday I've had since I went back to work. I think it's honestly just that I've only got 2 weeks left, and so now I'm kind of getting into that whatever, these problems are not my problems kind of mode, which is so nice. But I have been doing some reading since I have not been working today, which is exciting. And I did manage to finish You. And I have to say, that ending was super disappointing. Like, nothing really happened. Like, something happened, but it was so predictable that I didn't actually think that was going to be the ending. I thought something interesting was going to happen. I thought from the middle that it was building up to some like surprise twist, and that Joe would like get his just desserts, or maybe he would actually end up in some kind of actual psychiatric care to sort out his problems. But no, predictable ending. Nothing exciting happened. And so in the end, I think I'm only giving it 2 stars, because even though I found it to be a really quick read and I found the writing style to be quite compelling and engaging, it was only engaging really for the first half, and then once it started getting weird and not really seeming to have a direction, and once it became clear that the ending was just going to be predictable, it lost me and I didn't care anymore. And that ending was so unsatisfying. Nope. I don't like that book. And unfortunately, the other book that I have finished reading is Ghost Story, the 13th Dresden Files book. And that one, to be honest, had a little bit of a reveal at the end, a bit of a twist. It was actually kind of interesting, but it's like the opposite of You, in that most of the book was boring. So having like a little bit of interesting stuff at the end didn't really make up for the fact that I was bored for most of the story. So I've definitely confirmed I'm not going to read any more Dresden books. I don't think I can imagine a scenario where I might change my mind. Maybe if I got really bored and the audiobooks became available at my library and I couldn't find anything else to read. Like, maybe some Dresden books can be okay to read. I did really like book 7. There is a somewhat interesting setup. I'm just really worried about the relationship with Molly, that it is trying to set up for that to become a thing, and no thank you. That's just creepy guy shit. And the ending of this, creepy guy shit. And even though I'm reading a bunch of creepy guy books, really only because I want creepy guys to like have an awful time. I don't want creepy guys to be having a good time, you know? Can you hear those sirens? Anyway, the other thing I did do is I started listening to 1Q84. To be honest, it's a lot longer than I thought it was. I thought it was like 30 something hours, and now that I'm looking at it, it's saying 45 hours. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to read the whole thing, but I have seen that I think initially it was released as 3 volumes, so I might just listen to like the first 15 hours and then see how I'm feeling about it. Maybe I'll even DNF it if I'm not enjoying myself. And I think also I got it slightly wrong. I was saying it was a retelling of 1984. I think what it is like a story that's happening in the world of 1984 during 1984. 1984, is that the right year? Yes. But so far it doesn't feel like super dystopian. Like when you read 1989, straight away it feels super dystopian, and just the darkness and twistiness of it I found really interesting. Didn't like the end of 1984 so much, and there's a part where it just seems like horrible dystopian propaganda is being sold to you. Didn't like that in 1984, but there were parts that I did really like. But as well, I have seen some things saying 1Q84 is like a romance, and I've also seen some people try to sell 1984 as a romance. Not really. It's the same as people who might try and sell this as a romance. Like, to me, Toxic Awfulness is not a romance. This is probably, I mean, 1984 is probably more romantic than this. Anyway, I'm not sure where we're going with the story so far. We've got 2 perspectives. One is this woman who's trying to get to an interview, don't know what for, and she's gone running off to try and get there, breaking some rules to try and get there. And then the other one is this author who has been approached by his editor to rewrite this young girl's story, but just in general, nothing's feeling dystopian yet. And when I pick up a book that I am expecting to be a dystopian, I want things to be dark and twisty really quick. So we'll see. We'll see. I have only listened to an hour and a half so far, which in a 45-hour book is not really that much. But I don't think Haruki Murakami's been getting up to too much creepy guy shit yet, so maybe it'll be okay. But anyway, it is really sunny today, which I think is part of what's adding to my relaxed feeling today, being not stressed about work. So I'm going to go and enjoy the sunshine. Maybe I'll listen to my audiobook, but I haven't picked a very good sunny day audiobook, have I? Probably I'll check in with you again a bit later in the weekend. So, the weekend is done, and I think I'm done with this vlog as well, to be honest. I don't know why I thought it was a good idea to read a bunch of books with creepy guys in them all at once. Because, like, creepy guys aren't a thing that I like, and so I probably shouldn't be surprised that none of the books I tried to read this week were books that I liked either. So, the one that I haven't told you about is 1Q84, 1Q84. Anyway, I listened to about the first third of 1Q84, 1Q84, I can't decide. And I was just really bored. I thought that what was going to put me off about this book was like the weird sex stuff that Murakami likes to do. And there was some of it, but it wasn't too bad. There is one bit where like this guy who's going to rewrite the book of this teenage girl, he's a little bit creepy towards her. Like he's telling her, oh, you should wear that top at the conference tomorrow because it makes your chest look good. So it's creepy, but it's minimally creepy. And as well, like there's some other weird sex stuff, but it's consenting adults. It's okay. But yeah, I just couldn't care about the characters. There is this plot thread of this cult being introduced, which I thought might be interesting. And that's what made me get to a third of the way through, is I kept waiting for this cult stuff to get more interesting. And I do think it's going to be a bigger part of the plot for the rest of the book. But honestly, I just don't care about anything that's happening. And I've read some more reviews and some more stuff about the book, and I really think the point of the book is going to be these 2 main characters coming together in a romance, and I feel like it's going to be some kind of like fated, meant to be bullshit that I'm not going to be a fan of. So like, I'm not going to enjoy that. I'm not enjoying anything these characters are doing. It's so slow. It's like everything that they're doing is this really mundane stuff that I don't care about, and having conversations that I don't care. And I will admit, I feel like a lot of my reviews lately have been like, I'm so bored, I don't care. And I I do think some of that is my state of mind with just being over work and wanting to get past all that. But it's just, I think it's more that I'm using up all my tolerance and my patience on finishing off work. And so I don't have anything left for these books. So if they're not doing it for me, then I'm bored, I'm out. Normally I'm really bad at DNFing things, but I just can't listen to another 30 hours of this book. Really? No, I can't do it. So, Creepy Guidebooks, kind of a failure. The best one was probably You, in that it was engaging until the end when I was incredibly disappointed that nothing came of anything. I mean, the Dresden book was kind of the opposite. Boring for most of the book, and then right at the end, some interesting things being set up for the next book, but like there were interesting things set up for the last couple of books and then nothing's happened with them, so can't trust it. Not gonna wait around. Anyway, do let me know if you have read any of the books that I talked about in this blog. What do you think about creepy guidebooks? I should avoid them in the future, right? Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.